Hey friends! So, since we're out of school for a while and I miss all of you so much, I thought while we're gone, I might read some books to you in case you don't feel like reading for yourself. So, I'm going to post a few videos every week that you can listen to, and I will read you a story like we do in homeroom. Alright, so today we're going to get started with a book I loved when I was a kid. It is called Fairly Fractured Fairy Tales. So fairy tales are traditional stories that we sometimes hear, and I bet you know a lot of these stories already. But these stories are a little bit different. These stories are for discerning adults and precocious children. Precocious means extra smart, and I know all of you are extra smart. So let's give it a go. We're going to start out with the story Little Red Riding Hood. You ready? Let's do it. Once upon a time, there was a little girl who was called Little Red Riding Hood. They called her Little Red Riding Hood because she always wore a bright red cloak and hood that her grandmother had made for her. She wore a cloak like this. Now, there was a reason why her grandmother had chosen bright red for the color of that cloak and hood. You see, Little Red Riding Hood had a problem. She had what they called in that day a gaseous cranium. Nowadays, we would say she was an airhead. She wasn't very smart. The problem with this was she was constantly losing things. Do you think Little Bo Peep had a problem losing her sheep? Do you think the 3 little kittens had a problem losing their mittens? Do you think Peter Rabbit had a problem losing his little jacket in Mr. McGregor's garden? Why, they couldn't hold a candle to Little Red Riding Hood when it came to losing things. She kept losing her things. Where were they? You name it, and Little Red Riding Hood could lose it. Her lunchbox, her homework, hair clips. She even lost the little pearl ring her mother gave her for her birthday. She couldn't keep up with anything. And she was always pulling off her little cloak and hood to go play, and forgetting where she put them. That's why her grandmother made them bright red, so they would be easier to find. See, all of her things, they ended up in the lost and found. Everything. Then one day, Little Red Riding Hood's grandmother got sick, and had to go to bed. They say it was a bout with the gout, and her little piggy went to market toe, in her toe. It was either that or an erratic sciatic. Ow, her back hurt. One of the two. Anyway, Little Red Riding Hood's mother thought that she might send something down to old Granny to try to pick up her spirits. Now, Granny's house was about a 15-minute walk straight down the road from where Little Red Riding Hood lived. Matter of fact, A blind man with a sick seeing eye dog could have found it in that length of time with no trouble at all. But for Little Red Riding Hood to find it, it would take an hour and a half, if she could find it at all. Nevertheless, her mama decided to chance it and called Little Red Riding Hood to her and said, "Now, Red, your grandma's sort of ailing." She's sick. "And she's laid up in her bed. Now listen carefully to me, darling. Try to get this in your head. Go get a batch of oatmeal cookies and a jar of sassafras tea. Put them all in a basket, dear, and take them to Granny for me. Now, child, go straight to Granny's house, and don't you stop along the way. And if by chance you meet the big bad wolf, don't you give him the time of day." So, Little Red Riding Hood got her basket ready, and she headed off down the lane to her grandmother's house. But before she got very far away, her mother shouted, "Oh, Little Red Riding Hood, I have just one more thing to say. I hate to be so picky, dear, but you're headed the wrong way. Look, her house is here. She's going here." Little Red Riding Hood. Wouldn't you know it, Little Red Riding Hood's mother had to go out and get her turned around and headed in the right direction toward Granny's house. Little Red Riding Hood wasn't gone 15 minutes before she ran into the big bad wolf. Now, Little Red Riding Hood didn't know the big bad wolf from a bowl of mashed potatoes. Remember, she's not very smart. So she sees the wolf and she thinks he's mashed potatoes. That's silly. Consequently, she responded very politely when the big bad wolf asked, "Little Red Riding Hood, upon whom are you calling?" And Little Red Riding Hood said, "Upon my grandmother, to tell her the sky is a-falling." And the big bad wolf said, "Red, red, red. Henny Penny said that. Now let's get it right. You know, I think that hood on her head is a little too tight. She can't think. Remember, Red, you are headed to Granny's with some cookies and tea. And you are not to stop and talk to anyone, especially not me." "Oh," said Little Red Riding Hood. And once more she headed off to Granny's house. But somehow she had managed to get turned around and was headed back toward her own house. Seeing this, the big bad wolf thought to himself, "Now how can I make Red and Granny the main course of my dinner if she can't stick to the script? I don't think she has it in her." With that, the big bad wolf quickly ran over to Little Red Riding Hood and said, "Little Red, your Granny's house is this way. My dear, let me escort you. You have nothing to fear. Don't be afraid. No. You can trust the wolf, right? Right? You guys think she can trust the wolf? Let's see. And Little Red Riding Hood said, "Okay," in a sort of airheaded way. So the two of them headed off to Granny's house. When they got there, they went straight into the house and right over to the bed where her sick grandmother lay. She's sick, remember? The minute Granny saw Little Red Riding Hood in the company of the big bad wolf, her eyes shot wide open with astonishment. "Grandma, what big eyes you have," said Red. "I thought for a minute they'd pop out of your head." See, Granny? She has really big eyes. Look at that wolf. What's he gonna do? "And your teeth. They look much bigger than they oughter as they sit by your bed in that big glass of water." See? Her teeth. They're by the bed. Have you ever seen teeth in a glass? It makes them look bigger. "And Grandma, your face. It's turned almost white. It looks like the color that's just caused from fright." When Grandma finally got her breath, she said, "Run for your life, Red! Oh, please, can't you see? That wolf has a plan, dear, to eat you and me." And the big bad wolf said with a snarl, "You got that right, Granny, but before I do, I think I'll have just an appetizer or two." With that, the wolf snatched the basket of goodies right out of Little Red Riding Hood's hand, and he ate up all the cookies and drank up all the tea. Look at this wolf. He's so greedy. He's eating everything. But it really wasn't tea. You see, Little Miss Airhead, remember, she's not very smart. Instead of getting a jar of sassafras tea, like her mama had told her to do, had picked up a bottle of rat poison by mistake. And when the big bad wolf drank all of that rat poison, he got a spinning in his head, and he staggered around, and he fell dead. Because poison kills people and wolves. After the big bad wolf fell down dead, Granny jumped out of the bed, and she and Little Red Riding Hood began to sing and dance around the room. Well, that is, until Little Red Riding Hood inadvertently stepped on her grandmother's toe. Remember, her grandma's toe really hurts, and she stepped on it by accident. But see, before that, they were dancing. But now, yeah, Little Red stepped on her toe, the one with the gout. Gout makes your toe hurt really bad. And Granny went back to bed, and she never got out. The moral of the story, so a moral is a lesson. The moral of this story is ignorance, so being dumb, is not often bliss, but it can sometimes save your life, at least in a situation like this. So usually it's not good to be stupid, but sometimes it is. And that's our moral of the story for today. Alright guys, I'll be back tomorrow with another story. I love you and I miss you so much, and I can't wait to see all of your beautiful faces again. Be safe, guys, and don't go visit the big bad wolf.